as I await the arrival of my twin granddaughters in a few weeks. I found myself reminiscing about some of those magical and mystical discoveries that infants make. Thinking back of my own children and now my other granddaughters, as they discover new and different and exciting things about this world. One of the big ones that always amazed me was the day they discovered that they had hands. It was as though they had never noticed that there were appendages. What these things could do. They could grasp and touch, and not the least of which was to be stuck in one's mouth. It's amazing to watch that kind of development, that newness, that excitement, that revelation. I had one of those moments the other day. I'm not even sure what the occasion was, but for whatever reason, I happened to look down at my own hands. Although I wasn't sure they were my hands. They seemed different. They didn't look like they belonged. There were spots on them that I had not noticed before. The veins seemed to be protruding in kind of an exaggerated way. There were wrinkles around the joints. And in the particular light in which I caught them, they had that almost translucent look to them. You know, the look that old people get on their skin. Now, these couldn't be my hands. These were the hands of an older person. And yet, they seemed strangely attached to the rest of me. And the next thing you know, I was off and running into mortality and pondering life as a 60-something, wondering what was left. I realized that these thoughts have not been restricted simply to moments like this, but during the pandemic have been quite regular. And not only for me, but for many of my friends and colleagues. And it seems to be regardless of age. I've had this conversation with 20 and 30-somethings about the meaning of life, about our hands, and what we are called to do. And is it too late? It is an especially interesting conversation to have during the Easter season, a season of resurrection. Unfortunately, the church has for many years, and continues to do in some cases, paint this life as kind of a test run for the hereafter. That the goal of this life is just to get to the grave that we might be resurrected and enter into some kind of a heavenly life that is really life. But what if the resurrection is not the goal, but the gift? The gift to living this life fully, or perhaps more fully than we have. To see that gift of resurrection life, where each new day is a new opportunity to grow into our relationship with God and with one another. That freedom empowers us to explore, like infants, What possibilities are there for these hands and the rest of us? What new things can we get into? What kind of creative enterprises? What kind of practice? What kind of exploration? We all too often cut ourselves off short to see ourselves limited. But what if the resurrection is an opening to see life differently? To see it as it should be, and not just as it is. It's quite a gift that we have been given in these hands. Not only for revelation and discovery, but for reaching out and caring and living in new and exciting ways. In the end, I had to admit these are my hands, and they are getting older. But fortunately, I got a half a ton of topsoil delivered the other day, and I discovered, these old hands still work pretty well with a wheelbarrow and a shovel. I think I'll keep them. They've got a lot of life left in them. Resurrected life. How about yours?
How small our span of life, O God, our years from birth till death, a single beat within the heart, a catching of a breath, a drop within the ocean deep, a grain upon the shore, a flash of light before we sleep, to see the sun no more. And yet our speck of life is spanned by your infinity. Our lack of time on earth is caught in your eternity. While suns and stars spin endlessly through depths of cosmic space, while eons roll and ages pass, you hold us in your grace. O Christ, you left eternity to plunge in time's swift stream, to share the shortness of our span, our mortal lives redeem. You filled your cross-closed years of love, you loved us to the end, and touch us with your risen life, that ours may time transcend. We thank you, God, for kindling faith that lights our transient years, illumining our pilgrimage through mists of doubt and fears, for hope that sees a life beyond the swiftly passing days, for love of both human and divine, that lifts our hands to praise.